Joining us today is Carol Todd, an educator, an advocate, and the founder of the Amanda Todd Legacy Society. Carol's journey into advocacy began from a place of profound personal tragedy. Since 2012, after the unfortunate loss of her daughter, Amanda Todd, Carol has dedicated her life to raising awareness about the dangers of cyberbullying, exploitation, mental health issues, and the importance of online safety.
Kids are feeling the peer pressure to get whatever device, to get on whatever app, and they ask their parents, and their parents don't want them to be left out. Mm-hmm. That's wrong. Safety over being left out. Agencies work against each other sometimes because saying we're the best. No one is the best when it comes to child protection. And child protection includes online protection. Online harms children's safety, family safety, internet safety, exploitation, sexualized images. Those are issues that we have talked about for a long time that need some legislation.
Welcome to Well Informed, the podcast where we dive deep into important topics and bring you conversations with inspiring individuals who are making a difference. I'm your host, Colton Easton, and today we have a very special guest with us. Joining us today is Carol Todd, an educator, an advocate, and the founder of the Amanda Todd Legacy Society. Carol's journey into advocacy began from a place of profound personal tragedy. Since 2012, after the unfortunate loss of her daughter, Amanda Todd, Carol has dedicated her life to raising awareness about the dangers of cyberbullying, exploitation, mental health issues, and the importance of online safety. Through her tireless efforts, Carol has become a leading voice in fighting against bullying, cyberbullying, exploitation, and has worked to create a safer, more supportive environment for young people. She has shared her story and insights on numerous platforms, including documentaries, public speaking engagements, and lots of educational initiatives. In today's episode, we'll be discussing Carol's journey, the impact of her advocacy work, and what we all can do to help prevent cyberbullying and exploitation and support mental health within our youth. It's an honor to have us here today. I hope you enjoy the conversation, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Always fun.
It's been, how long have we known each other for?
Well, I worked with your dad eons ago, right? And he always talked about his children, Colton, right? So, but you and I, probably Amanda's been gone for 12 years. And so maybe 10?
Yeah. Well, because, the Erase program started at like October of 2012, right?
Yeah.
And then I didn't come to SST till 2015.
Well, the story is like it was introduced Erase, and he called it Erase Bullying in June of 2012.
Yeah.
In October they launched it. And it had died, and there was some uncomfortable moments in that whole scene. So I really didn't come back to addressing it until I got connected with, or Teresa reconnected with me. And that was probably about the beginning time that you came on board.
Yeah, because that's true. Because it's been a long road for sure, and it's been cool to see the amount of work that the Amanda Todd Legacy has done, because this Amanda story and everything, it was a personal note to see like the video go viral, and this is like while I was still in high school, or just getting out of high school when this was happening, right? So it had that effect on me because it was within my community. It was talked about everywhere, and to start the work that I was in and notice that, had no idea that the work that was being done afterwards, I think is a huge thing, that a lot of people know Amanda's story. A lot of people know the video because of how viral, how widespread it went. But not enough people, I think, focus on the now what. Now what's being done? Like, what is being done with the Amanda Todd Legacy?
Well, it's not only about the legacy. Legacy has helped it move forward, right? And so when Amanda created that video on the day after she passed, right, YouTube took it down because of content, because of the copyright, the music. And so I found someone on my doorstep that had said the video's been taken down. What should we do about that? And so contacted Google. It went out on media, and Google put it back up. Not that I haven't had problems with the copyright and the sensitivity of it. So I was somewhere, and I had met someone from Google Canada, and told her the story and what happened. Everyone knows about the video. Everyone wants that video to stay up. I mean, we're talking 12 years ago when we weren't even talking about exploitation, and sextortion wasn't a word. And when Amanda died, it was bullying and cyberbullying. We didn't even know about the extortion piece to the fullest extent like we do now. And so when I talked to Google, my person at Google, they said, let me handle this. And so what happened after that is they managed, I guess they contacted the people responsible for the music Amanda used, because there is free copyright on that particular video now. There's a term, it's on the actual YouTube video. And then they put the sensitivity markers, the trigger markers on the video too, with a button you had to push. And that video has stayed now. I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So about 50 million views globally.
Yeah.
Whenever I go to another country, they know about Amanda's story. They may not remember her name, but they remember the video. And so I've used that as the platform to remind people about what happens. And 12 years later, it's still going on. I'd say even probably worse. And the question is, why has it escalated so much? Is it the proliferation of devices? Are we not teaching the kids enough, the parents enough? Are the schools not focusing on digital literacy? Are the governments not doing enough? Are the government and the law enforcement agencies not looking deep enough into offenders? There's all these questions.
Yeah.
Right?
It gets a lot bigger because there is, as you meant, it's multifaceted, and from our perspective, at least, like it seems like we're doing all we can do, but we're only so small, right? It's the education that's needed. And actually, just before this, when you sent me the link to the parent group on Facebook, I got accepted. I was into it. It's parenting in a tech world.
Yeah.
And just being able to read through some of these questions. Because before this, we were talking about, David's using his flip phone and the reasons and the logic behind that. And you're saying that, kids as early as 9, earlier, are getting a full-blown smart device, and now parents are just playing catch-up to being like, oh, no, there's all these problems that exist within this tech world, but now that I'm in it, like, this is a real problem, and I don't know what to do now.
Well, see, there's probably a portion of these listeners who will listen and watch our podcasts that will shake their head at me and what I'm going to say next. And so when you have a generation, right? You say that you were part of that generation that saw Amanda's video, okay? And you have kids. And so there are parents out there that are in their 30s, late 20s, letting their children use devices at age 2, age 3, age 4, putting devices in the hands of their 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, so that they can be safe walking home from school or whatever the reason may be. Those parents have gone through that education of digital literacy, how to keep safe, the basics, or they've seen a poster or they've seen a story, but it hasn't sunk in. And a lot of it doesn't sink in until your child has been cyberbullied, your child has been talking to strangers, your child's getting messages from strangers of things like, send me pictures of yourself. Then the worry starts, and then they want the education.
Yeah.
How do we get the parents and caregivers and grandparents to sit down and learn these things as their kids? It should be basic part of parenting, technology parenting 101, right? Because when I go to that Facebook page and I read it, and there's a parent giving their kids a smartwatch at age 9.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with a regular watch?
Yeah.
Why does it have to be a smartwatch? Because I have to know where my kids are. It's parenting in the tech world.
Yeah.
We have to not only teach our kids how to be safe, we have to teach parents how to parent in the tech world without relying on tech.
Mm-hmm. Which is just it's a double-edged sword, absolutely, because they don't know what they don't know. And through our parent sessions and through the collaborative work that we do with our joint sessions to all the your school district, it's received very well. People love it. But my fear is, and this is for all of our sessions as well, is the people who need to hear it aren't at those sessions.
I agree.
The people who are already in tune with what their kids are doing, are aware of their smartphone usage and their device usage. Those are the parents who are always seeking more and getting more information. But it's those who aren't there are the ones that are the most in need of, I don't want to say reality check, but unfortunately, a lot of you see a lot of the scare tactics being used, the propaganda for, there's this one video that I saw that had, I think it was like a movie theater like situation, and like they had used AI to like age the young girl there and show all the different like ways that people could reach out a message, and like that scare tactic, we decided to not use that video in our training just because it is kind of that like boogeyman that exists out there.
But you know what's funny? Mm-hmm. That video came out, I think I first saw it maybe, a year ago, 8 months ago. Mm-hmm. And now look how much AI has advanced. Look at the headlines that are coming out. You've got peer-to-peer now using AI. Like there's a story out of Australia. Mm-hmm. A teenage boy has used AI to extort and threaten and scare 50 young girls.
Yeah.
Right? And so some of that, what that video showed, is now coming to fruition. Mm-hmm. And then more and more, there is, I think, a legal lawsuit in the United States where some young girls are suing their parents to get their images off social media that their parents have posted.
Interesting.
And so one of the girls said, the whole world knows when I got my period, right? Because mom posted it. And she wants all that information off.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
And so this is that. But what I like is this is the young generation speaking up. Mm-hmm. The young generation there's a percentage of them that are so tired of social media. They're going to the flip phones.
Yeah.
They don't want to have their lives all over Instagram. They're not posting it, and if someone else posts it, they'll say, you need to take that down because I didn't give you consent. Mm-hmm. So some of the stuff we're saying is getting into the heads. I think one of the barriers is presentations. And you're right, parents won't come. When we did a school presentation, we had like 1,400 parents register, and you only get a quarter of them that come.
If we're lucky.
Because it's when they see it, the poster or the advert, it's like, yeah, I need to do this, but then they forget. Mm-hmm. Or there's no money attached to it, so then it's not really important. I didn't pay for it. So
there's no loss.
There's no loss, right? The other thing is, and don't take this the wrong way, is hiring presenters costs money.
Yeah.
That lots of people don't have or organizations don't have. Right? And then there was the COVID effect. Mm-hmm. No one wants to come out of their house, or you've got so many busy things. When do these presentations usually happen, Colton?
They're right around dinner time.
Right around dinner time, or I have to get my kids to swimming lessons. I have to get my kids to basketball. There's always something going on.
Yep.
Right? And a lot of organizations who do these presentations don't record because it's a business and he can't have access to it later. And so there are all these barriers in order to get the information out. Getting that information out is really important, and it's how we do it. I just actually talked to someone in Australia, and Safe on Social.
Yep.
And she's doing all these webinars, but they don't fall in PST time. If the time of Australian time is like 2:30 in the morning, they don't record, right? And I said to her that, yeah, you're charging these parents. What about the parents who can't afford it? So now it's by donation only.
Oh, cool.
Right? Which is a different concept.
Absolutely, because that still gives the financial, like, I'm giving a little bit so that there is this monetary hold on my, willingness to go to this.
Or production.
Yeah.
Right? All the things that you need to hold a webinar, right? But it's giving accessibility, and I think we have to look at that accessibility piece, because a lot of the parents who we need to come to those sessions may have some barriers.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. We should start to do a Saturday morning session. See, I would be curious to see the turnout versus, a 6 o'clock set versus just do a Saturday morning, like 9, 10 o'clock.
Yep.
See what happens.
Before the kids, like everyone's still having their coffee, right? 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, because what we do, one of our new sessions is like the family sessions, right? So it's where we've created a session so that parents and, kids can actually watch it together, because that brings that harmony together, right? It's not the adversarial side of things.
It's co-viewing.
Yeah.
Right? And I talked to ICE officer from Alberta, and co-viewing social media, sitting side by side, kid can do what they need to do, playing the game, but parent is there, and parent can look over and say, so what's happening on the screen now? And so getting used to that co-parenting, co-talking, co-viewing, and making it part of the habit.
Yeah, and not making the, the viewing being like, okay, this person is watching social media or watching, anime or video games in the bedroom. Like, make that how they interact with technology part of that, like, family area, so that way parents can ask questions about it and, like, tell me about this. Why do you like to play? Why do you like to watch it?
My other suggestion is a lot of homes have smart TVs now that you can project. And so you can project what your child is doing on their screen. And if they're hesitating, if your child's hesitating, so what is it that they're viewing that they don't want anyone else to see?
Exactly.
And is it appropriate?
Yeah.
And so you get those signs. I think parents need to know those signs. Another thing is parents are asking about parental controls more.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Our devices, of course, all have parental controls, but they can be complex.
Yes.
And so...
And they can be thwarted.
I know.
Somebody in the comment section in one of the parent group that you were saying is that, like, the screen time limits get erased if you change the time zone within the phone.
And kids know how to do that.
Exactly.
Or kids can bypass the codes and get in. And so it's finding out, how are these kids bypassing in order to do it? And if it's so easy, Apple needs to fix it. Or whoever, Samsung, Android, I don't know who controls those, the Android parental controls, right? But they need to fix it.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Parents want more demos. I don't know where to get the demos.
Of the actual softwares?
Well, of parental controls.
Right.
Right.
That's true. It is tough to set up, because we have screenshots.
You tell the parents, like, I've sat through hundreds of your guys' presentations, right? And you say, well, you can set up these parental controls and you just do this and this. Well, that's not enough for these parents. They actually need, this is what you do. Everyone get out your phone. This is what, go to the settings, go to general. And so maybe I need to hire SST and find a place on a Saturday morning, and we do parental controls, because it's hard to do virtually.
It is, unless, we've got this set up so that way, right, we could do the camera top down and, like, I can show the phone, there's ways we can definitely go about it. But yeah, that would be super interesting to see, like, what the turnout is versus that, because I totally agree for the hands-on. Like, I'm a hands-on learner. Like, I need to see step by step, because there's so many settings within the computer and the phone that not a lot of people know about. And it even surprises me of people my generation that still don't know the full capabilities of the technology that they currently have.
I don't. I find new buttons on my phone and my computer all the time because you just stay with your standard,
Yep.
right? But it's an underneath layer that's getting our kids and ourselves into trouble. And so when you think of adults and how many phishing scams there are, there's the love bombing, there's the financial extortion, there's the going after our seniors, there's the, the trolls or what the bots that pop up on your Facebook and say, hey, like, let's talk, or I'm looking for a friend. And some people fall, like it could be 1 in 20, 10,000.
Yeah.
But that's still one,
Yep.
right? And they fall for it. These are adults falling for it. Just think about our kids who aren't fully brain developed, who have lack of, cognitive control because they're not old enough. They can't handle that stuff.
No.
So they fall for it. And kids don't know that, I'm feeling kind of sad because I didn't get to go for my ice cream. Or that's just an alert for a bad person out there to say, hi, how are you? Do you need a friend?
Yeah, absolutely. They take advantage of that void that is apparently missing to them. They know what these predators, they know what those things in this youth's life that they're missing, and they use that as the opportunity to reach out and build that connection. Because one of the things that, as we were piloting this, I said to David, is that nobody goes into these conversations wanting to be a victim, right? And it's the trust that I'm sending this stranger, somebody who's told me that they are this person, but eventually that trust gets eroded when they, reveal their true intentions, or could be there. And so many times, like, parents, will always say, like, never, you can't add strangers. Like, if somebody messages you and you don't know them in real life, like, don't add them. But
what's the definition? When does a stranger become a friend?
That's the thing.
Right?
Yeah.
It could take 20 minutes because friends talk to you and they ask you how you are. And that's what those strangers who are bad actors end up doing. They get the trust. And so I don't know if you've read any articles about the extortion and the sextortion and how it works. The ones in Thailand and in Jamaica, right? It's like a big telemarketing room.
It is, yeah.
And I've seen the videos, right? And so they're high-fiving each other in that telemarketing room when they have one person who all of a sudden has fallen for it, who they've scared the crap out of to send money, and they're the bad actors are like high-fiving, and people need to see how that works behind the scenes.
I think they do. And there's one case that we actually worked on where we were able to track this individual who was pretending to be a minor, reaching out to another minor, and using that information in our open source intelligence, we found an operation in Nigeria. And very commonly, I think the data is showing us is that it's now about 50% boys and 50% girls that are being extorted, with a slow rise in boys being targets of sextortion because of the monetary aspect.
Yes.
Because typically girls are sextorted for more photos, but boys are sextorted for more money. And that's the monetary value from that. And it's the knowledge and the education about how these operations actually work and like what does. And for me, it makes no sense why a stranger would reach out to me and start up a conversation. Like, I immediately get red flags regardless. Like, why does somebody want to talk to me?
Yep.
Right? And that's the mindset that I have.
But when you look at the boys who have been sextorted and the ones who have sadly died by suicide, because those are those stories that come out. If someone has been sextorted and they're living, usually they don't share their story due to more embarrassment, right? And you look at some of the, similar characteristics of the boys. Age range, 15, 16, 17. Many of the boys are athletes, football, hockey. All that profiling has been done ahead of the perpetrator
Right.
befriending, and they're 15, 16, 17-year-old boys.
Yep.
Hormones.
Yeah.
Girls.
Right.
Right? Oh,
Attention.
Paying attention. It's all been well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you get our boys not to fall for it?
Yeah.
Right? When they've got other things going on.
They're probably also messaging other people who are real in this case, and it's just like another one to add to the proverbial list.
If you're
I
a
guess.
sports kid, and you know how in the States, all the sports, I mean, you got high schools with full-size football stadiums like the one we had at the P&E grounds, right? And you think, this is a high school?
Yeah.
And they travel,
Yeah.
right? So you meet other people. So it's so easy to fall for it. I mean, this was happening way back in Amanda's lifetime, right? We weren't paying attention to it as it ever being a big problem.
Yeah.
And now it is. But that is, the internet is huge.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, what's really interesting is, again, because we talked about the now what are we doing? But I think still, like, I know it's just kind of just come to an end, but the trial for the sextorter for Amanda, like, people don't usually know unless they're actually doing the research, but this has been drawn out for years. Like
It took about 2014. It was announced, right? And 2022 was the trial. So it took 8 years to bring him to Canada to try him. But he was known in the UK and in Europe back in 2010. Like, they knew of someone. It got kind of botched up along the path. Some parents in Norway and in the UK, their young daughters had told their parents, and then the parents had filed a police report. That file got tucked underneath in Norway. And then I guess some other parents had reported, and then it was like, oh yeah, we have this. And it was Aiden Coban, right? And then they knew about him when Amanda was alive.
Right.
They were, and then they did the undercover, and in 2013, when they did an undercover op, because he was arrested in 2014 January, with the IP addresses and all the names, because they did a big Facebook request, and then they found Amanda's name had popped up in that report. And so it became a bigger, if Amanda's name hadn't, it would have just become, he would have been an unknown offender.
Right.
Right.
Wow. And yeah, the fact that, like, the 8 years that this thing was drawn out to get him to come to Canada, to sentence him there, and then ultimately he goes back, and it's up to them to decide whether or not he serves that sentence on top of what already he has. And
the other thing is, like, we talk about law enforcement, right? More training needs to be, more empathy training when cases get disclosed, more cybersecurity training so that investigators can investigate more and better. But it costs a lot of money in order to bring someone to trial and have that closure. Now, when you look at the statistics through Cybertip Hotline, through NCMEC, through cybertips.ca, through in Canada, and then Australia has one, the UK has one, and there's international tip lines. When you look at how many cases of exploitation get reported, but how many actually go to court,
right.
It makes you sad, right?
And it also is comparing only just those that have been reported.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a pretty unfortunate statistic to look at. I don't know what they are, but I could imagine.
But if you look at the statistic, are the statistics going up because the crime has gone up, or is the statistic going up because people are more aware of what the crimes are now because of awareness education, that they're reporting it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, is reporting gone up because of the availability of tools, the knowledge, and the ease to report? And I mean, I look at our data from our BC Report It tool, and every time we do a student session or every time we go to a location, like there's always a spike in the number of reports. And that, I see that as good news because it's not, I don't think that I don't know, it could be both, honestly, that the behaviors are increasing, but the willingness to report and the trust in the system is also going up for specifically our reporting tool.
You know what was horrific? Because I was at Nick Mick in December, and they have these interactive walls, right? Okay. That light up when reports in different places, and then the numbers increase, and of all the countries, and it is horrific, the numbers globally of reported exploitation, child abduction, CSAMs. It's just horrific. And I don't know if there's enough people out there in the world to provide education and awareness. Something that I know the U.S. does is their law enforcement agencies all over the place, and even their Department of Justice, so your district attorneys and your attorneys, they actually go out and do public education on exploitation. And then I looked up what Canada does.
Right.
Big difference. Right? And so the U.S. has been proactive in creating that education and awareness. And I don't want to diss Canada, but I think as a country we could do more.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much that goes into it. I mean, as a company, but also as a government, right? There is
Our
lots.
Governments have initiatives, but they don't create the information to share with the public about those initiatives. Like in BC, the Intimate Images Protection Act.
Yep.
It's great.
Yep.
It's wonderful. Where's the PSA?
No idea about it.
It's an ad on YouTube. Okay,
Yeah.
if you watch YouTube, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and it's going to pop up if you put something.
And if your algorithm has decided that that's what you should see.
Where's the posters, like the big electronic billboards, or where's, like, I know it's a crappy topic to talk about, but we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they had no problem like plastering it all over the place. When we have important things to share and reporting tools, we have to do it, like Erase.
Yeah.
And the government. Big tool, lots of information on their website. Parents can go to it, students can go to it. Why isn't it flashed on an electric billboard?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Where's the marketing side of those things? And that's a huge thing, because like we always say for our tools, they only work as well as the buy-in that students have. That's one thing, but it's also the awareness. They need to know it exists.
I know they cost money, but isn't that money worth it if you're going to keep kids safer? If it's going to prevent a death or trauma? Because the trauma costs a lot more to deal with counseling, with doctors, with medication, with mental health, than paying for a campaign that's ongoing that reminds us. It's like Erase, and you do the school presentations or the family presentations. Can we not tell the world somehow? Why do we have to rely on school districts to tell our parents when there should be other ways that we can share that information?
Absolutely. And everybody has a role in it as well. Like the government has a role, social media companies have a role, parents have a role, students have a role. But I think for those who are listening and watching, the tangible things that they can do right now. And I really loved perusing through the Facebook group just to see like people's issues that they're dealing with. It's interesting to see. It's like, oh man, there's some huge red flags there. But, going back to the question of monitoring.
It's about the red flags. We have to teach the parents about what the red flags are and how to deal with them and talk to their kids about them, and not feel like they're a bad parent by saying no. It's the peer pressure. Kids are feeling the peer pressure to get whatever device, to get on whatever app, and they ask their parents, and their parents don't want them to be left out. That's wrong. Safety over being left out. And that's what has proliferated this huge problem. So when you look at, I can't believe in that parent group how many questions are quite similar, right? But the responses of others, there's lots of good responses, but there's lots of other interesting responses like, oh no, you just got to let your kid do whatever they need to do and butt out. And it's like, parents are telling, that's the advice parents are.
Yeah, it's tough. So I guess how can parents effectively monitor or balance, monitor online activities, but also respecting some of that privacy? Obviously, starting to grow up in that digital age, like what's the fine line, or what's the best way to balance that out?
First of all, parents need to understand what the digital age is all about. And there's some interesting readings out there, right? If you read what's on, small readings, Google alerts, there's resources like Screenagers. She has a blog out every Tuesday, focuses on parents, good, easy listening. And when your community shows the documentary, it's another thing that's expensive, right? But Coquitlam's bringing it back in September. It's getting more educated and aware of what's going on before you talk to your child. You have to know what's going on out there in the digital world before you can talk about it responsively with your child. Parental controls, communication and trust. It's not going in for the attack. It's going in for the regular conversation. But those regular conversations start when your child's a toddler and can just speak. Right? And you have that communication, and that communication and trust can filter all the way up to when they are becoming pre-teenagers to tween age, right? And then with social media, you do it together. You know, almost every child's going to get to it eventually. Yeah. And so you start young, and you create an Instagram page for a family one of your pet or whatever. And then you get to understand what happens, right? And then I say provide scenarios, good and bad, to your child so that they know how to react. And so one thing is, if a child, teenager, youth, right, comes across a situation and you've sort of brought it up previously at home, your kid would say, in their brain would go, this sounds really familiar, and this is how we talked about it at home, and this is how we can deal with it now, right? Because they've had that experience. So we learn by our mistakes, or we learn from listening to other people's mistakes, right? Yep. The other thing is, when you have communication with your child, don't have it in the first person. So it's not like, what are you doing? What are you doing on your smartphone? What are you doing talking to? Say, I heard like so-and-so's mom or someone at work, right? Someone at work has talked about their kid, their 8-year-old or their 10-year-old or their 12-year-old being online and something like this is happening, or they're using this app. Can you tell me what that app is about so that I can talk to my work friend and share it with them? Yeah. And your kids will let go. Yeah. Right? They have all this, they'd love to talk about what they know about best. And so then you can get a sense of what they know or what they don't know. And you can throw in that, have you ever experienced that? And your kid will tell you, yeah. No. So get to know what's going on, but not in first person. Use another way in.
And I think a good point that you mentioned earlier is that to have these conversations, you should preload yourself with this knowledge base, so that way you actually, you know the ins and outs of, like, or you can pick apart, like, oh, that's not necessarily truthful what they're saying, or to know the ins and outs. So, we talked about the red flags, and there's a documentary made by TELUS about the whole Amanda Todd legacy. It was TELUS documentary, right? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
there's lots of documentaries that have been made. So
Yeah.
TELUS did Dark Cloud, 3 stories. Amanda's is one of them. And it shares insights about it. And what I like about TELUS is that they're a telecommunications company that has put aside a budget, people, on keeping kids and families and parents safe. And so if you go to their TELUS-wise website, it has all these resources, right, on how to start a conversation or what kids are doing, what parents are doing, the scams. So it's a robust website and information gathering for your whole family. And so, as I said, there's been lots of I always know when the documentaries air because I get messages through the website. And there's one that circulates, that was made by the UK, and it circulates in the United States. And so, on a crime channel.
Right. Yeah. Because I know there's also a Crime Beat episode too.
There's a Crime Beat episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's, you know what? If you want to learn more about sextortion, I don't know if it's still online, but Dr. Phil did 2 really good sextortion episodes. They aired September of 2022, and one session was focused on girl sextortion, and one episode was on boy sextortion.
Interesting.
You know what's really scary also now online is I guess they call it like cult following behaviors.
Sure. Yeah.
Going after young kids, not for money, maybe for sexualized pictures, telling the kids to harm themselves, building a relationship and getting these kids brainwashed.
Do you know where a lot of this happens?
Where?
VR.
Oh.
It is insane. The cults and followers and weird things that happen in virtual reality. And that's a huge thing that I haven't seen addressed as much is when you put on the Meta Quest or the Oculus or the PlayStation VR, there's one particular app that always gives me red flags. It's called VR Chat. And VR Chat is a platform that's like widely available on any VR platform. But what scares me is that there are VR worlds that it's kind of like Roblox almost, where it's a sandbox game where anybody can create a world, join it in virtual reality. You can walk around. There's the voice chat. So like there's proximity. So like if we were in a VR world together, we could hear each other talk. But if I went to the other side of the room, you wouldn't be able to hear me.
Right.
So there's those aspects, but there's also rooms in VR that you can actually lock the door.
Like Roblox?
Yeah. That you can lock a door from the inside. So that way anybody who's in this outside world in the video game can't get inside. And there's all conversations are silent and you can't hear anything outside there. It's wild.
And there was a story from out of the UK where a young lady said she was sexually assaulted in the virtual world.
Yeah. So in these whole other aspects, like because you have a avatar that you look like, a lot of them do look like anime characters, but you can also customize skins and you can also make them clothed or not clothed. So that's where that sexual assault aspect comes in. It's wild and very scary because I have a Meta Quest.
So
I put it on and I joined VR Chat. And the default skin is a short anime girl. And I didn't know that until I looked in the VR mirror and saw the skin.
Which follows that artificial intelligence world now, right?
Yeah. And like people were talking to me and like being weird. I was like, this is strange. I don't like this.
Well, it's funny because when I got my Oculus and I had a female avatar and I went into not VR Chat, but I was in some other worlds and these other male avatars would approach, right? And they don't know in the real world that I'm this middle-aged woman, right? And it was so creepy that I changed my avatar to a guy.
Yeah.
Roughly, scruffly, weird baseball hat, right? And you don't really get bothered.
Yeah.
Kind of misogynistic, sexist stuff.
Very much so.
But parent in the tech world.
Yeah.
My 10-year-old, I just got them a VR headset for their birthday. And you bet you go to the parent and you say, do you know how to use it?
Right.
Do you know how it works? Oh, no. But it's the newest thing and I thought it'd be fun. I've seen real life people going, I got my kid an Oculus. I don't know what they do on it because I can't see it. Well, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
What's it called? You can
cast it. So just like anything else. So yeah, just so people know, with the MetaQuest specifically, because that's the one I have. I don't know if you can do it with any other ones, but it operates by itself. You don't need to connect it to a computer. You can cast what you are seeing to a smartphone or the TV. You can use the MetaQuest app to actually see what's going on, or you can cast it to a TV, which, one of our other trainers who was also on the podcast, Jed, got a VR headset for his kids and was like, the rule is you use it in the living room, you cast it to the TV, what you're doing. And that's it, right? Because if you're not doing that, exactly your point, you can't see what they're interacting with or what they're actually doing.
Are there parental controls on it?
Not that I personally haven't like gone in and like checked around all the parental controls. I imagine there would be, but I don't know how robust they are, because you can go in VR chat and like you'd have to do specific settings within VR chat. Then you'd go to another world and have to do specific parental controls in that other game, in that other world. So it becomes it is cat and mouse for all of us.
Another thing I've found in terms of when I'm doing parent presentations and open houses at schools for parents, and a lot of resources are online, just like your Safer Schools Together has the parental handbook, right? And so when everything's online and we present with a QR code, just when the parents go home, they don't look at this again. So then we changed face. And so I've been spending lots of time looking up resources, and I'm finding electronic PDFs. And then at the school level, we're printing them out, having 20 of this one, that one, that one. By the end of the night, they're all gone. Parents are taking them. And I want parents to actually, I can't print off your SST parent book because it's a lot of pages.
It's big, yeah.
But what I would recommend is doing tip sheets. If you want to do and have them when you're doing real life presentations, but have them available for us as schools and communities to print them out and put them on a table. Because if parents, just like we talked about morning parent sessions, when parents are drinking their coffee or tea in the morning and they say, oh, I'm going to read this one. Or they put it in a folder that they can, my child's having a problem with cyberbullying right now. What are the tips, right? Not having to look online and maybe finding unhealthy tips.
Right. Or out-of-date tips as well.
Or out-of-date tips.
Yeah.
Right?
Because that's the big thing too.
I think I said that the ministry has some things dated 2018. And everything might be fine. But you know what parents look at? They look at the date and say, if it's 2018, it's old stuff. They want to see 2023, 2024, not maybe a year or two beyond what today's date is.
Yeah.
And they know it's fresh. So I recommend everybody out there look at what they have in PDFs and see, right? Exactly. I even said this to Telus the other day. Yeah,
that's good. I know a lot of the work that we do, and with the Amanda Todd Legacy, you said going to NECMEC, which is the National Missing and Exploited Children.
National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
There you go. A lot of acronyms that
I know.
A lot of people, we're all about the acronyms, but a lot of the work does seem pretty bleak, especially seeing the amount of reports and over there. Like, is there any positives that you've seen, or what are some of like the good success stories that you've seen in this work?
I just saw an article where about 5 countries, law enforcement got together and used artificial intelligence and looked up cold cases and found the identities of kids that were sexually abused that they couldn't identify, but using the new intelligences, they were able to identify and go to the victims and help them check to see if they were okay.
Wow.
That's a success story. And so it's using technology for good. We hear so much about technology for bad.
Yep.
But the bad can push us into looking at the positive and how it's going to fix it. I think we all have to work together in order to make something positive happen. Agencies work against each other sometimes because saying we're the best. No one is the best when it comes to child protection. And child protection includes online protection, right? Educators and parents and just the average citizen. Like if the average person has children or a niece or a nephew or grandchildren, we have to be invested to know what's going on before more tragedies happen. That's the time when we look up things, is when we hear a bad, sad story, right? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Amanda's is a bad, sad story. Yeah. And then people go, I'm going to look up more about this and find out more. We should be doing this as part of our ordinary information gathering.
Yeah.
Right? People often ask if there's going to be an end in sight. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because you bring up something new comes up. Now we're chasing about learning about artificial intelligence, and the offenders have already learned all about how to use it to perpetrate our kids. Yep. And so as parents and caregivers, we're having to figure out how to bring that conversation up better. And another one is porn literacy. Right? The addiction to porn, because it's online, it's accessible. Our kids they can type in playful kitty cats and things come up. Mm-hmm. Like you can't block everything off the internet. No. And so how do you have that conversation? And so statistics say that the majority of sex offenders have had early exposure to pornography. And they just kept watching. And it might have been adult pornography, but then they kept watching, and it changed the wiring in their brain, so they needed more. And then it went down to pornography with children, right? Jeez. And it leads to a different path.
Almost seems like a substance use problem.
Pretty much.
Very similar, right?
And there are, so you have substance use, you have Narcotics Anonymous, you have Alcoholics Anonymous. Mm-hmm. Who's going to walk into a pornography anonymous group? Right. They are few and far between. Mm-hmm. There's some in the States. I think there's some in the UK. I'm not sure if there's any in Canada. It's becoming a big problem. Right. If you watch Childhood 2.0. Yeah. So there's a documentary parents can watch. It's put out by Bark. They aren't really selling anything. It talks about different stories related to the internet and the social media world. They have interviewed kids. They've interviewed someone who's addicted to porn. They've introduced parents talk about mental health in their child. Really good documentary, and it gives you a sense of real life things happening, right? Mm-hmm. But those real life things that happen are things that we need to make sure that we know about. Yeah. And our kids know about. Who wants to talk about pornography with their children? But it's a real life thing that we have to.
Because of how, easily accessible. It's, people always say, well, it's because your algorithm that you're getting that. It's a random click that you could potentially see on somebody's page, go to a link tree, or even on the For You page of the TikTok algorithm, right? You get this random video that gets shown, because again, you don't know what you're seeing when you're scrolling next, and could be a link to somewhere else. Yeah, it's too common to not talk about.
Well, I was thinking, with OnlyFans 18 plus, and they're saying, well, how can kids subscribe? But if a child has their own bank card, and every bank now has, you can attach your debit card
to
a
debit credit card,
but you can attach it to a virtual credit card. Can you not use that virtual credit card number into sites that are 18 plus?
Right.
How would they know?
Yeah, you just click the box that says I'm 18. Now maybe they have other age.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Verifications.
Yeah, or if you are a seller of content, but we've also heard cases where there are minors that have been found on OnlyFans and other cases. All it takes is a fake ID, I guess.
I don't know if OnlyFans uses, you have to show age verification.
Take a photo of your ID to upload it.
I know either Perp or one of the other ones, you have to show some form of photo recognition.
Yeah, I know Wiz does that.
Or maybe it's Wiz.
Because I tried to sign up for Wiz because, again, I have to know what our youth are using. And, like, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a 16-year-old boy. I know it sounds very creepy, but this is just to see what, like, if I were a 16-year-old boy, what would I do? But I can't take a photo of my face.
So what did you use?
I couldn't use it. It locked me out. Like, it said, like, I don't know if my IP address got flagged or anything like that, but, like, I tried to be 16 years old. I tried to do the photo of, like, on a computer of a 16-year-old boy, like, to do the flat face, but it wouldn't take it. So people, for me, that seems like, okay, that's a good robust system, because if I was a bad actor trying to do this, like, I would have to use a photo of my face or something else a little bit more convincing.
So if they figured it out, how come all the others haven't figured it out?
Yeah.
Because Tiana didn't even pass. She tried to get on it, and her picture wasn't accepted, and she looks really young.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah. Right.
How does that work?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Which interesting. The other thing I heard recently was Telegram is now the new bad app.
Oh.
Drug deals.
Oh yeah, Telegram,
violence.
Signal. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, we see so many things being linked. Like, they'll use public social media to say, here's how I advertise, but if you want any of that content, here's the WhatsApp or the Telegram or the Signal link, because that's the encrypted, the chats that go on through there. What's really interesting is talking with some of our law enforcement colleagues when they do a data dump of a phone using some of those apps, how they use emojis to communicate. When that program is in the phone, and, like, when the data dump comes from the phone, the emojis will show as just like that square box, because it doesn't read the emoji. So then you're missing out on what the context of the message is the emoji, like, represents something to do with that, which was super interesting to me. But everything gets sold on there. When
Meta came out with their announcement of ET end-to-end encryption, I was at NCMEC that time. And the frustration and the, I guess, anger, because how are you supposed to, like, Meta has said that they are all in for child safety.
Right.
And you apply end-to-end encryption. Is that child safety? It's privacy. Privacy for the wrong people.
Yeah.
If you've got nothing to hide, why do you need end-to-end encryption? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Privacy is a very, it's an important thing, especially in our, day and age right now, but there is that cost of how much are we keeping private? Like, why do we need to keep it private? Like, the communication chats, the end-to-end encryption. I know
if it's private, it must not be, it must be a bit on the nefarious side.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the thing too, is that these tech companies will make these announcements to say, hey, we're no longer doing this. And then it's like, you were doing that? Like, what? Yeah.
Or they announce that they've put in more safety standards. And it's like, well, they should have been done like 5 years ago. Why are you doing it now? And could you explain it to us better in simple words so that the average human can understand it? Right? Because I was in contact with the director of safety and trust at Roblox. Like, I've known her for a long time. I think what she used to be with, I don't remember. UK Safer Internet. And Roblox keeps coming up with new safety standards. But 5 years ago, she said, we've got all the safety standards set in place. Right. Yeah, well, no. Right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, what scares me with, looking ahead to the future, I see all these AI companies. I'm like, show me a company that hasn't introduced some sort of AI into its system, where it's a communication bot, or it's a way that they're flagging or filtering content, whatever it could be, or producing content. But what I'm seeing a lot of these AI companies do, especially OpenAI, is dissolving their safety teams.
Why?
It's not where the money is, I guess. And and focusing more the push, again, all these companies trying to get AI, but not look at I always think about to the Jurassic Park, all the scientists thought about, what they could do, but they never thought about, should we do it? Right? That's where I kind of look ahead. But I mean, but for your perspective, looking ahead, like, what are your hopes and goals for the future in terms of online safety and mental health advocacy as well?
Well, for the online safety part, like in Canada, our government's introduced the Online Harms Act, C-63. It goes to another reading in the fall because the government's not sitting. There's lots of pushback from the opposition government. I would hope that the parts that are troubling, that the existing government would look at it and see what they can alter or what they could make into, would take out, because online harms, children's safety, family safety, internet safety, exploitation, sexualized images, those are issues that we have talked about for a long time that need some legislation. Like when you go look at the criminal code, some of it's old language. It needs to be brought up to date in the day in life of our tech world, right? And that would do it. It's frustrating for me to watch how opposition governments will just focus on the hate speech on it. And I agree. The hate speech doesn't need to be there. Make it a different act. So watching that needs to be changed. I think once we have some standards, we can do more as humans. We have something to fall back for, right? It's in the criminal code. You send a sexual image, right, of anyone, any age, you're going to get roasted for that.
Yeah.
In the United States, they've got so many different acts about online safety. There's about 5 or 6 of them that have not been passed. One got signed in 2 weeks ago. They are slow in progress too. What they have going for them are groups of parents who have the voice, who march to Congress and collaborate and get together. I hope that their bills get signed into law soon. Australia has multiple laws related to child safety online. The UK has multiple. I don't know about Asian countries. There seems to be other things going on. And I would hope that different countries work together more, because the internet is one big thing that is global, but it's all the same everywhere. But every country has different standards. It's like Canada doesn't have an extradition treaty with Nigeria. Right. Canada was lucky to have one with the Netherlands to bring Amanda's perpetrator to Canada. I can feel how upsetting and frustrating it is for the parents of a young victim that may have their offender is from Nigeria, and it can't be different systems, different legal systems, right? So that's a dream, a wish,
absolutely,
right? That all countries can work together more. But law enforcement is sort of right.
Yeah, no, it's baby steps for sure. And I mean, in this hour, I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
Oh, so, we probably have.
Yeah.
There is tons to talk about. And if you use today's as all the topics we talked about and broke it down even more, we could have separate conversations somehow on the different parts.
Yeah. Right? Well, yeah, we'll absolutely have you back for some more in-depth talk. So, yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Carol, thank you so much for this conversation. It was awesome.
Thanks for having me, and I'm here anytime to chat.
Perfect. Anything you want to push out? Share?
I guess, well, you keep talking about Amanda's Legacy, and we do have a nonprofit, and it's AmandaToddLegacy.org, and in the process of updating resources and updating just things, good things to know about. There's so much. Right?
There is, and I always tell folks who are whether it's in our trainings or anything else, like any exploitation resources, anything like that, go to the AmandaToddLegacy.org, because you have a full encyclopedia of resources throughout the world, which is fantastic.
Trying.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all right. Thanks again so much, Carol.
You're welcome.
Thank you for watching or listening to today's episode. If you or anybody you know is dealing with currently exploitation or sextortion, as we talked about all throughout today's episode, there are many resources for you, and we'll be sure to put those in the links in today's episode. Specifically here in BC, though, if you or anybody is dealing with a intimate image that has been shared without your permission, whether you are under the age of 18 or over the age of 18, the website takebackyourimage.gov.bc.ca is a website that allows you to say, which image has been shared, give the personal information, and that goes directly to a team that will see that information and follow up, not the image itself, but the way in which it was shared and how to be able to follow up with law enforcement. Outside of British Columbia and globally, if we are dealing with youth who have shared an image and are under the age of 18, through NECMEC, they actually have another website called Take It Down, which allows the youth who has taken that image to choose that particular image. And the image doesn't go to the website at all, but what it does is it creates a hash value for that specific image, which is just a bunch of numbers and letters. And that specific hash value gets shared with the partners that NECMEC works with, such as Snapchat, Meta, OnlyFans, and many other partners. And if that said image that has been submitted matches that certain hash value through their partners, that image will actually get removed, thus lessening the spread of that and sharing that. So throughout NECMEC, also please visit the AmandaToddLegacy.org to visit Carol's website and access the many different resources. But check the links, as we will be providing as many links and resources as we can in the bottom. So thanks again for watching or listening to today's episode.